Myles Garrett is about to hit a historic mark, but Kevin Stefanski couldn't be less interested in turning it into a headline. Garrett's been dominant, yes, but Stefanski was far more focused on how the entire team responds to big games. When asked about Garrett's record pursuit, he turned the conversation to consistency, mental toughness, and team-first thinking. The same principles he applied to Shedeur Sanders, who's navigating both a concussion recovery and the NFL learning curve. Garrett may be the vet, Sanders a rookie, but both are being measured by the same standard: composure under pressure.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Stefanski's emphasis wasn't on celebrating, at least not yet. The Buffalo Bills are focused, and beating them will take more than star power or individual feats. It will take balanced execution, precise play calling, and trust in players like Sanders to deliver in critical moments. The way Stefanski framed it, the Browns aren't in awe of milestones or names. They're locked in on performance. And anyone not aligned to that mindset, regardless of age or status, risks being left behind.
Kevin Stefanski didn't hold back. In the lead-up to the Browns' matchup against the Buffalo Bills, the head coach stepped up to the mic and laid it all out. No fluff, no dodging, just brutally honest breakdowns of where things stand. And yes, that includes where Shedeur Sanders fits into the picture. From Josh Allen's dual-threat dominance to the gritty uphill battles in the trenches, Stefanski made it clear. This game isn't just another Sunday. It's a mental war, a physical gauntlet, and a test of everything this Cleveland team claims to be. His tone? Controlled but firm. He wasn't hyping up the opponent just to play the underdog card. When Stefanski praised Josh Allen's game, it came from a place of tactical reality. He rattled off the facts. Allen's powerful arm, mobility, precision, throwing, whether it's on script or improvised. The word perfect didn't come out of his mouth, but it didn't have to. The subtext was loud. This is the kind of QB that forces you to rewire your entire game plan. What makes Allen such a problem is that he doesn't just play one style. He can sling it from the pocket with laser accuracy or roll out, break free, and crush a defense with his legs. There's no one-dimensional approach to stopping him. Stefanski made that crystal clear. If you're not disciplined on every snap, Allen will find the crack and exploit it. The Browns aren't walking into this game thinking pressure alone is going to do it. The margin for error is microscopic. And it's not just about Allen. Stefanski turned the spotlight on Buffalo's overall offensive machine, pointing out how defenses are forced to choose what they're willing to give up. Do you load the box and risk getting beat deep? Or sit back and get bled dry by the run? These are the decisions Stefanski and his coordinators are wrestling with this week. And the pressure isn't just on the defense to perform. It's on the coaching staff to get this chess match right from the first quarter. Then there's the Dalvin Cook factor. Stefanski didn't hold back there either. Fast, smart, dangerous in open space, or grinding through the interior. Cook's versatility forces you to respect every part of the field. He's the kind of running back that punishes lazy angles and missed assignments. Stefanski emphasized that it's not just about the D-line doing their job. It's every defender. All 11 have to stay engaged, stay aggressive, and tackle like the game depends on it, because it will. The way Stefanski sees it, you can't rely on any one superstar to stop guys like Cook. He talked about effort, execution, knowing your keys, reading formations, and when defenses start stacking the box to try and control that run game, that's when things open up elsewhere. And that's where the Browns need to stay alert. According to Stefanski, it's not enough to just stack the box and hope for the best. That invites its own problems. When safeties creep up, they leave the back end exposed. And if you're not careful, that exposure leads to big-time plays. Stefanski pointed to the importance of wide receiver blocking and finding ways to stretch the field, keeping the defense honest, forcing them to respect multiple threats. That's where creativity in play calling becomes more than a buzzword. It's a necessity. Stefanski didn't tip his hand too much, but he hinted at diversification, mixing up looks, making defenders hesitate, and using formation strategy to manipulate those stacking tendencies. Against a team like Buffalo, vanilla schemes just don't cut it. Myles Garrett naturally came up in the conversation. Stefanski acknowledged the milestone chase. Garrett's name is about to be etched deeper into Browns history. But the praise came with a reminder. Garrett isn't chasing personal glory. He's chasing disruption, consistency, the stuff that changes games, not headlines. Stefanski's tone made it clear. Garrett's record is a point of pride, but it's not the goal. That said, Stefanski didn't downplay Garrett's impact. He called him a game wrecker, someone who makes offensive coordinators lose sleep. But again, the emphasis was on the team. One elite player doesn't carry a defense. Garrett's performance only matters if the rest of the unit rises with him. That's the message being driven home in team meetings. And then, because everyone's waiting for it, came the Shedeur Sanders discussion. Stefanski was asked directly about the rookie QB's mental state coming off concussion protocol, and his answer didn't sidestep the pressure. He called Sanders mentally tough, said the kid doesn't flinch, doesn't sulk. Even after rough games, his energy stays the same. That kind of resilience? Stefanski made it clear. That's what earns respect in the locker room. Sanders' situation isn't about stats. It's about how he handles adversity. According to Stefanski, he's passed the eye test there. Concussions are serious business, and the Browns are following protocol. Stefanski didn't rush the conversation, either. He wanted people to know this isn't just about putting a guy back on the field. It's about doing it the right way and trusting the long game.
What Stefanski seemed most proud of when it came to Sanders was the emotional consistency. A lot of rookies spiral after one or two bad games. Sanders didn't. Stefanski said he came the next day with the same attitude, the same work ethic. That's not common, especially when you're playing in a media market that's just waiting for you to screw up. The Browns have been cautious with his return, but that doesn't mean they're hesitant about his future. In fact, the message was clear. They believe in him. Stefanski's comments weren't sugarcoated. He didn't make wild promises or call Sanders the next franchise savior. But he did say that the building believes in Sanders' growth, his toughness, and what he brings when healthy. That's not a throwaway line. That's as close to a vote of confidence as you get midseason. Injuries overall were a huge part of the press conference. Stefanski touched on several names, but the theme was steady across the board. No shortcuts. Whether the hand injury, a head issue, or anything else, the Browns are sticking to process over panic. Stefanski's philosophy is that short-term fixes cost you long-term wins. And based on how he spoke, that view hasn't changed, no matter what the stakes are. There was also a nod to preparation. How practice needs to reflect the chaos of Sunday. Stefanski kept returning to the idea that success in games comes from how you drill during the week. Bad habits in practice show up at the worst possible times. Against a team like Buffalo, those details matter more than ever. Garrett's name came up again near the end, this time less about records and more about his locker room influence. Stefanski talked about how veterans like him set the tone, and not just on the field, during film, in the weight room, walking through plays. It's leadership by doing, not just talking. That's what rookies like Sanders are watching every day. The balance Stefanski struck between celebrating Garrett's accomplishments and reinforcing the team-first message was sharp. He's not trying to kill the joy of a milestone, but he's making sure that the Browns don't get caught staring at stats instead of focusing on the grind ahead. The final piece Stefanski zeroed in on was mindset. He said outright that beating a team like Buffalo isn't about trick plays or relying on heroics. It's about execution, clarity, the little things done right over 4 quarters. He tied that directly to how players like Sanders and Garrett prepare. It's not flashy, but it's what wins games. And it's what separates rookies who flash from rookies who last. That was the tone Stefanski wanted to leave hanging. Not hype, not fear, just straight up focus. He knows what kind of team Buffalo is, and he knows what kind of team Cleveland has to be to compete. The rest? It plays out on the field. If you're into seeing how strategy, mindset, and real player development collide under NFL pressure, this is a kind of deep dive you don't want to miss. Drop a like if you're tracking the Browns' evolution. Leave a comment on how you think Shedeur's return will shape the season. And make sure to subscribe for more behind-the-curtain coverage straight from the...
This isn't just another game. When the Browns go up against a team like the Bills, it becomes a litmus test. All the questions about toughness, resilience, and identity get answered in real time. Kevin Stefanski knows that. That's why the tone of his entire press conference felt like preparation for a heavyweight bout. No dodging, no hype machine, just cold reality. Buffalo doesn't just bring star power, they bring depth. Stefanski made that clear without even needing to name every player. When the other sideline is stacked with athletes who can flip a game in seconds, there's no margin for hesitation. That's why the Browns' preparation had to be relentless. It's not just about schemes. It's about making sure every single guy in the huddle knows what's at stake. And that brings us back to leadership. Stefanski talked about Myles Garrett again, not just as a pass rusher, but as a cultural tone setter. According to Stefanski, Garrett's consistency, especially during tough weeks, rubs off on everyone else. When Garrett shows up focused, it spreads. When he plays through double teams, it tells the rest of the defense. No excuses. What stands out is that Stefanski didn't need to use superlatives. His respect for Garrett was in the delivery. Calm. Measured. Like someone who knows they don't need to hype up what's already obvious. The milestone? Yeah, that's nice. But Stefanski was more focused on what Garrett means in moments when the scoreboard isn't kind, when momentum is slipping and leadership becomes visible. Now let's talk about the elephant in the quarterback room, Shedeur Sanders. After his concussion protocol, all eyes were on whether he'd return, and more importantly, whether he should. Stefanski didn't dodge the question. He made it clear, health comes first. Period. That message was firm. There's no prize for rushing a rookie back before he's 100%. Especially one expected to lead this team for years. And Stefanski wasn't just checking boxes with his words. You could tell there was real thought behind how they've managed Sanders' recovery. He mentioned the medical staff, the evaluations, the incremental steps. This isn't about optics. It's about making sure when Sanders is back, he's ready. Not just physically, but mentally. The Browns have already seen what happens when the smallest breakdowns get punished. Look no further than the Steelers game. Stefanski didn't reference it directly, but you could hear it between the lines. Missed tackles, misreads, breakdowns in the secondary, it all adds up. That kind of loss doesn't just bruise the record. It exposes the parts of the team that still need refining. And that's what makes games against top-tier opponents so dangerous. Every weakness is a neon sign. Stefanski knows that. That's why his emphasis on discipline, preparation, and full team effort sounded more like a mission briefing than your usual coach speak. He's been in this long enough to know that talent alone doesn't save you. Execution does. Stefanski has seen his team flash brilliance, just not consistently. In recent games, like the one against the Bears, there were moments where the game plan clicked. Crisp routes, solid pass protection, defensive stops when it mattered. But there were also moments where it unraveled. Penalties at the worst times. Drives that stalled after promising starts. For Stefanski, that inconsistency is the issue. And Buffalo? They capitalize on that. So when Stefanski talks about being on point, it's not just a cliche. It's the difference between beating a playoff-caliber team and being buried by one. Every drive matters. Every defensive series is an opportunity or a disaster. That's the mental framing he's trying to instill. Because against a team like the Bills, even one bad quarter can undo everything you built in the other three. Back to Sanders. What Stefanski made clear is that even when Shedeur isn't on the field, he's learning. Watching film. Studying defensive schemes. Processing the rhythm of the NFL. That might sound minor, but for rookies, it's everything. Stefanski pointed out that Sanders isn't one to sulk or zone out when he's sidelined. He's engaged, focused. That mental wiring is exactly what coaches want from a future franchise leader. And honestly, Stefanski's words felt like a preview of what's to come. No, he didn't declare Sanders the full-time starter. But the belief was there. You could hear it in how he spoke about Sanders' poise, his approach, and how the team is handling his transition into the league. That kind of investment doesn't happen by... There's something else Stefanski seemed intentional about, making sure the conversation around Sanders doesn't become performative. He didn't shower him in hype, but he did give credit where it was due. In a league where rookies get buried under social media scrutiny and highlight reels, Stefanski is keeping things grounded. The message? Let the kid develop. He doesn't need to be a savior. He needs to be steady. And that's not just coach speak, it's strategic. Stefanski knows that the pressure will come no matter what. But how the organization handles that pressure, how they talk about Sanders publicly, that shapes everything. It protects the player. It sets expectations. And it reinforces that the Browns aren't chasing headlines. They're trying to build something real. In the Browns' matchup against the Vikings, there were lessons everywhere. The run game struggled early. Defenders were caught off guard by misdirection plays. And the offense? It stalled in the red zone too many times. Stefanski didn't ignore those issues. He brought them up as learning opportunities, chances to refine, not just repeat. What stuck out was how he framed those moments, not as failures, but as signals. If you're not scoring in the red zone, that's not just bad luck. It's a flaw in execution or maybe in scheme. If your defense is giving up chunk plays, there's a pattern to identify. That level of self-awareness from the coaching staff is what keeps teams from plateauing. And Stefanski knows this team can't afford to plateau. Then came the Dolphins. Speed, tempo, and overwhelming pace. Stefanski acknowledged that Cleveland didn't adapt fast enough. The offense couldn't keep up. The defense got gassed. It was one of those games that leave a mark, not just in the standings, but in the psyche. That kind of loss forces you to reevaluate everything. Stefanski's takeaway? It's not about one scheme or one player. It's about how fast the Browns can adjust when things go sideways. Against the Bills, that adjustment window shrinks even more. Stefanski knows that, which is why he kept circling back to preparation, not just excess and OS, but mindset. Being ready to adapt, recover, and stay calm in chaos.
By the end of the interview, Stefanski wasn't trying to sell confidence. He was offering clarity. The Browns have talent, but talent without discipline gets exposed. They've got rising stars like Shedeur Sanders, but rookies need support, not unrealistic expectations. And they've got leaders like Myles Garrett, but leadership only matters if it multiplies through the locker room. What Stefanski laid out wasn't a hype speech. It was a blueprint. Stop Josh Allen? You need full team effort. Contain Dalvin Cook? It's about tackling and recognition, not just raw strength. Bounce back from injuries? That comes from trusting the medical staff and not forcing timelines. And when rookies like Sanders start to wobble under pressure, that's when belief, not blame, needs to show up. The game that really seemed to haunt this coaching staff? The Patriots' loss. That one stung. Stefanski didn't name it, but the lessons from it echoed through everything he said. The Browns came out flat. The game plan didn't hold. And New England exploited every inch of space Cleveland gave them. It was one of those wake-up calls that lingers. Stefanski's tone made it clear. They're still trying to close the gaps exposed in that one. He didn't sugarcoat it. When defenses load the box like the Patriots did, and your offense can't create separation or hit the right lanes, it becomes a slow bleed. That game showed what happens when your execution breaks down and your adjustments come too late. And the scary part? Buffalo has all the same tools, and more. Stefanski knows they can't afford a repeat. Shedeur Sanders, meanwhile, has slowly been ramping back up. Stefanski didn't offer a definitive timeline, but he pointed to Sanders' presence in practice. Watching tape, walking through plays, asking questions. It's not glamorous, but it's essential. You can tell the Browns are protecting their investment. They're not going to throw him in just to quiet critics or stir up headlines. What Stefanski made clear is that Sanders is taking the right steps. There's no rush, no performative updates. But when a coach spends that much time talking about a rookie's composure and habits, you know there's something there. Stefanski sees a long game. And whether Sanders starts this week or not, The foundation is being laid behind the... That's where the front office comes into the picture. Stefanski and GM Andrew Barry have clearly aligned their vision. It's not just about this Sunday. It's about building something that lasts. You don't hear Stefanski throw Barry's name around lightly. But when he does, like he did here, it means the decisions being made are coming from a unified place. This isn't one of those head coach versus GM situations you see implode across the league. Stefanski's comments show they're in sync, especially on player development, injury management, and team identity. That kind of cohesion matters. It gives players like Shedeur a stable environment. And in a league built on chaos, stability is... Even when Sanders addressed the media, he echoed the same themes: focus, recovery, patience. No drama, no bold declarations, just quiet confidence. He didn't have to say much. His body language said it all. He's in this for the long run. And the Browns are giving him room to grow without the weight of unrealistic expectations. Stefanski brought that up too. He praised Sanders' poise, not just when things go right, but especially when they don't. That's the real test. And it's why, despite the noise outside, Sanders still has full support inside that building. 2. The big takeaway from Stefanski's press time? This team knows where it stands. They're not perfect. They've taken hits, on the field and on the depth chart, but they haven't lost belief in what they're building. Stefanski didn't deliver hype. He delivered reality. And for once, that's more powerful. He laid out the path clearly. Disciplined execution, trust in preparation, and belief in the guys inside the locker room. The Browns aren't pretending to be something they're not, but they're done apologizing for who they are. And that mindset, that's how you get through the fire. So if you're still following this Brown story and you believe in what Stefanski's building with guys like Shedeur and Garrett, hit the like button. Drop a comment on how you'd handle Sanders' return. And don't forget to subscribe, because things are only getting more intense from here.